It's a fabulous looking guitar. I don't know if you heard this, but you buy a guitar and you put it on a stand and you just look at it. And you know, every time you walk past, you kind of catch a sneaky, you know, a sneaky perv at it, really. It's probably the pinnacle of guitar ownership for many players out there. The question is, why would you spend £2,200 on a Gibson when you can buy an Epiphone for £500? The smart money is on the Epiphone, or several Epiphones really, if you think about it. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. So today we're going to do a bit of a comparison between these two Les Paul standard 50s. On the right we've got this lovely gold top, which is from Epiphone, and on the left this lovely cherry sunburst, which is from Gibson. So if you're familiar with this channel, you'll probably realise by now that I'm a little bit of an Epiphone fanboy. I've had quite a few of these recent inspired by Gibson range on here for reviews. We've had this Les Paul Gold Top we reviewed a little while ago. We've had the Les Paul Special, we've had the Les Paul Junior, we've had the SG Special. We had the Epiphone Coronet a while back. That's not an inspired by Gibson one, that's an inspired by Epiphone one, but it still counts. And we just had the 335, the ES 335, which we've done a little series on. I'm clearly a fan of these current Epiphone range. I'm a big fan of the price point. Most of these were around, well, they're between kind of 300 and 600. I'm just actually thinking we also did the Epiphone 59, the custom one, which was a little bit more pricey. That's getting up into the £700. So, you know, they're still, you know, they average around about 500 quid, which is way below what you're going to pay for this Gibson Les Paul, for instance, which was £2,200. So what I wanted to do is look into a little bit more detail, really, just between these two, because they're to all intents and purposes the same specs, to see kind of what the differences are, you know, in terms of how do you justify an extra £1,700 when you can get what I believe is a perfectly good Les Paul that feels like a Les Paul and plays like a Les Paul for 500 quid. So let's look into it and find out, because we can. So where do we start? So this guitar, £2,200. Les Paul standard 50s, cherry sunburst. I bought this from a place called Guitar Galleries in the UK. First time I've ever dealt with them. I've got to say, just because they deserve it, they were an absolute pleasure to deal with, and they did. Honestly, okay, here's the thing. I saw this, I got the gas, Les Paul standard 50s. You know what it's like, you look and there's none left, there's no guitars, there's a shortage of guitars. But I found this one at Guitar Galleries in North Yorkshire. It was on a Saturday morning. And I wasn't sure how I was going to pay for it, because it was a lot of money. And I had a couple of options, but I couldn't explore those till Monday. But I was convinced it was the last one and someone would buy it. So I phoned them up, actually. Matt, I think I spoke to, and I said, look, I really want that, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for it yet. So can I give you a deposit? You know, I'll give you a deposit and hold it for me. And he said, yeah, he said, no, don't worry, I'll hold it for you. I'll take it off sale and hold it for you, and, you know, give me a call Monday. And I said, well, I know, I'd really rather leave you a deposit if that's all right. You know, and he said, no, don't worry, it's fine. I mean, he didn't know me from Adam. He probably knew Adam better. But anyway, he sounded, you know, genuine. So I said, okay, thanks very much. You know, here's my details. And I did think, oh God, someone's going to go and buy it. But he did. He took it off the website straight away. And I phoned him Monday, and we concluded the deal. And I don't think I've ever had that experience where somebody that doesn't know you has trusted you, took your word for it. So good. If you ever get a chance to buy something from them, do, because they deserve it. Anyway, that's a plug. They're not sponsoring this, by the way. I just think when someone does a nice thing, you should thank them for it, really, because it's maybe sometimes hard to find in this world, isn't it? And I have to now speak of my feeling about this guitar when it arrived, because it's a significant purchase. It's not like you've just whacked out 500 quid on a guitar, which is exciting in itself. It's a big purchase. It's something that will mean something. It will mean that you've spent a lot of money on it, and it needs to live up to that expectation. But you also, I think your expectations are a lot higher. And I wasn't disappointed. It's a fabulous looking guitar. And of course it's got that Gibson smell, you know, that comes with Gibsons these days, that lasts a while. It's fading a little bit now because I've had this a couple of months now. But it looks stunning, and it's a really nice weight. We'll weigh it in a bit. And I've played it a little bit. I haven't overdone it, but I've played it a little bit, and it sounds pretty good. But the feeling was there. Sometimes I don't know if you heard this, but you buy a guitar and you put it on a stand and you just look at it, and you know, every time you walk past, you kind of catch a sneaky perv at it. Really, it's turning you on, I suppose. Really, not in that way, but you know, it's actually kind of oh, look what I've got. You know, it really did make me feel good. So I mean, there's a big plus. You know, in the heart and the head straight away. There's a kind of connection forming with this. You go, oh, that's a cool guitar. I said it was on its stand though. One of the immediate drawbacks of that is that, let's get this on camera. There you go. You see that mark? So that's a mark in the nitrocellulose that the guitar stand left on it. It isn't something that's going to buff out. And if you do try and buff it out, you'll leave scratches all over it. So this nitrocellulose is very soft. And the guitar, and I know it's a stupid thing to do because it's well known that guitar stands and guitar hangers can mark nitrocellulose. But I was told that these particular stands were made from stuff that didn't mark guitars. And I suppose you don't really expect it, do you? But it's very soft, this stuff. Beyond that, the finish on this is immaculate. There isn't a scratch on it. So what anybody says about, you know, guitars, Gibson guitars, nitros, all being like that isn't true. And it's not because this isn't black. This is spotless. It's been really well finished. And you know it's a quality stuff. So they can make them properly, but you know, be careful because they mark like anybody's business. Now this is okay. So this is the first blemish I've put on this guitar. So I guess, you know, it's off now. We've started to age it naturally ourselves. And when we put a few more hours playing time on it, you know, it'll start to look good. So first impressions are real positive. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to whip the strings off both. We're going to weigh the hardware. Look, have a little bit of a closer look at the hardware. We're going to look in the pickup cavities. We're going to measure the necks and look inside the control cavities and do some comparisons and see what's what. Okay, let's get stuck in. Tar. Okay, first things first, let's get the strings off. Right, so both of these guitars completely standard as they came, standard hardware, standard pickups. So let's have a look. And so the Gibson tailpiece is very light, I can feel that. It says advanced plating on the back, and it weighs 34 grams. So nice piece of kit, that. And the Epiphone one is, says Epiphone on the back. It's got these locking devices. You can feel it's a lot heavier. It's 68 grams, so could make a difference. Right, so bridges. Gibson, ABR1, weighs in at 57 grams. Epiphone, just says Epiphone, a lot lighter, weighs in at 46 grams. The hardware difference, it's the tailpiece on the Gibson's aluminium, whereas on the Epiphone it's just says nickel. So I don't know if it's solid nickel or nickel plated or not, I don't know. And again, the bridge is a little bit vague. Gibson just says ABR1, and the Epiphone just says Epiphone lock tone. So that's interesting. I just noticed as well, like I haven't played this a great deal, the Gibson, but again I can see mark on the nitro on that shoulder there where I have played it like that, but I haven't played it a great deal, so that's kind of dulled that and marked the nitro on there already. Wow. I hope that comes across in the camera. I'll get some B-roll if it doesn't. So let's get that out of the way. One thing I forgot, and I did promise to do, is see if there's any difference in the posts on the Epiphone. All right, so there's the Gibson tailpiece, and it goes straight on the Epiphone posts. There is a conclusive fact: the Gibson and Epiphone tailpieces are interchangeable. I don't think there's any undue movement there. In fact, there's more movement on the Gibson. It comes off of the Gibson. So there you go. The bridges don't, because the posts on the Epiphone, the top of the posts on the Epiphone are, I think they're 6mm, whereas they're 4mm on the Gibson. So you can't put a Gibson style bridge directly on the Epiphone without changing these posts. But you can get conversion posts, as we did with the 335 project that we've recently done. So there you go, another little fact for you. Okay, they've both got these knobs. Are these reflector knobs? I don't know, but they're these for 50's style knobs. They're a slightly different shade of knob, obviously. They've both got the pointers, which are very cool, but they both, they look apart on both, so that's cool. Pick guards, very similar, very much a cheaper look on the Epiphone one. It looks thicker and rougher. There's a slightly different shade to the binding and the pick guard on the Gibson. It's more of a cream on the Gibson. It's kind of more of a vintagey shade. Well, this is all a little bit mismatched actually, but it's pretty cool on both. I think what you'll find with Gibson is because it's nitrocellulose, the nitro changes with light, or it certainly used to. How much it does nowadays, I don't know, but I've had a Les Paul a decade or so ago, and it did start to yellow on the binding. So I mean, hopefully, if you hang on to one of these for long enough, it would do the same. Whereas that's never going to happen with the Epiphone because it's got a poly varnish over it. So both of these are made of mahogany, with mahogany necks and solid maple caps. Now, obviously I must say at this point that the species of mahogany that the Epiphone is made out of will differ from the species of mahogany that the Gibson's made out of. They'll come from different regions of the world, as is appropriate to where they're made. Lots of people will say that the Epiphone, Asian mahogany, if you like, is inferior. I don't know if that's true, so I can't really comment on that. All we can say is it's a different species. There are lots and lots of different species of mahogany. A lot of people claim that it's not even proper mahogany. It's very sort of, vaguely mahogany. But, well, again, I can't really comment. It's from a different part of the world. And I guess ultimately the proof is in what you hear from the guitar. If it sounds that much different, maybe we can blame the wood that it's made out of. But we can't really go into that into detail. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that it's a lesser quality wood, and therefore some of the cost involved in the manufacture is reflected in that, as it should be. How much, we don't know. So, well, you might. If you do know, let me know, because I'd like to know. I'd like to look into this subject in much greater detail one day. I think, if we get an opportunity to at some point, I will. But for now, let's just say they're the same but different. How's that? Yeah? Good. Let's move on. But while we're on that subject, let's weigh them and see if the different species of mahogany makes a difference to what they weigh. Okay, so first of all, let's put the Gibson on the scales, and we've got £8 10 ounces, likey, or 3.92 kilos. And on the Epiphone, we are looking at £8 14 ounces. Are just over 4 kilos. So the Epiphone's a little bit heavier. Cool. The Epiphone's got what they call a Guitaraddict new bone nut, whereas the Gibson, it just says Guitaraddict. Also, the headstock angles are different. On the Gibson headstock angle, I'm not sure if this is. I probably need to do B-roll for all this stuff, but the Gibson headstock angle is, I understand, 17 degrees, whereas the Epiphone is shallower at 14 degrees. And the keen-eyed amongst you might also see that there's been some slight cracking in the lacquer here on the Epiphone, and as far as I know, it's just the lacquer. I'm sure it's just the lacquer where the nuts moved, because actually, yeah, you can see the nuts loose on the Epiphone. The strings hold it in place, or have held it in place, so I haven't done anything about that. But I must be careful I don't drop that now. Now I've loosened it even more. So the steeper headstock angle on the Gibson is again one of the problems why tuning stability is sometimes questionable on Gibsons, and you know, just to repeat what we've all said so many times, the cause of the tuning problems are largely caused by the nut and the steep headstock angle because the strings get caught in the nut. So if you're having that problem, don't go and change the tuners thinking it's them. It's not, it's the nut. And also the break angle over the bridge here. You can improve that by raising the stop tailpiece or by doing a top wrap on the strings, and those two can both help. Okay, so fingerboards. On the Gibson, you've got rosewood, and on the Epiphone, Indian laurel. So the Indian laurel is a slightly lighter wood. It's obviously more sustainable wood, presumably a cheaper wood. Does it sound any different? I don't know. If we ever get a chance to look into the tone wood in more detail, then maybe we can look into that. But personally, I don't have any issues with it. I don't think I would notice a difference. Some people say they do. Again, it's subjective. Again, part of the price difference is going to be because they can't source rosewood to put on the fingerboards of Epiphones at that price point. So, okay, moving on quickly. Okay, so let's have a look at the neck profiles and measurements. Here's the Gibson. And here's the Epiphone. So they're fairly similar, but not identical. I don't know if you'd feel that difference or not. Okay, so that's the neck. Tuners, vintage style Clumsy Epiphone Deluxe tuners on the Epiphone, and Gibson Deluxe vintage style tuners on the Gibson. In terms of what feel, let's have a, can I feel any difference? So they just feel like that. Let's see if I can feel any difference. Don't think I can. Oh, I might say that I can feel a gnats more. These are a gnat smoother on the Gibson. Oh, it's, you know, it's splitting hairs, I think. It might be my imagination. I might want the Gibson ones to be better because we can say, oh yeah, they're superior because they were made. I don't know where they were made. Well, they made. We're not assuming that all the parts for this were made in the USA, are we? I don't know. Is the answer. Okay. So let's now look inside the pickup cavities and see. Now both of these, no, in fact, I know the Epiphone claims to have a long neck tenon. The Gibson doesn't claim to have that, so let's have a look and see. So here is the Epiphone. Let's move the old, covered in varnish sticker. There you go. There you can see quite clearly the long neck tenon there. Goes all the way down to there. Big old chunk of neck there. Let's try and put these alongside each other if we can. I've only got one neck rest, unfortunately, so I assure you that I'm not putting sufficient pressure on the neck to damage it, but for the sake of sanity, we'll put the neck rest on the Gibson. This was one of the things I was quite keen to discover, because I know obviously on the custom shop reissues, they make a big deal out of the long neck tenon. So, and I don't know if they have that in the standard range or not. We're about to find out. Live. No, they don't. Well, there's a thing. That's quite different, isn't it? Well, that can go all the way down there. So you can see, so you can see the thick maple cap there. You can see that the neck joint doesn't come through the maple cap at all on that. So it doesn't look like the joint comes into the pickup cavity at all there. And there's no other markings in there. Burst buckle 1 on the Gibson. So you can see the thick maple cap on the Epiphone. You can see where the neck joint comes in and all the way down to there. So it's got the long neck tenon. Okay, that's interesting. And this is Pro Bucker pickup on the Epiphone neck. It looks like that cabling's not the braided type, it's a different type of cabling. So, okay, oops. You've always got to remember to put the pickup back in the right way round. Let's screw those back in. Okay, that's interesting. So if you want a long neck tenon in a Gibson, it looks like you've got to go the custom shop route. I'm a bit surprised by that. No, I'm not. Let's have a look in the old truss rod cavities while we're here. Gibson. But you can see that. I mean, I don't know what there is to see. It's kind of under the hood, so it's not tidy. I suppose it doesn't need to be. It's got some goo on it. I'm going to assume it works. I don't need to tweak it at the moment, so I'm just going to. So this is the bell type truss rod cover that we know and love. And obviously these Clumsy style tuners have got the nuts holding them tight, as opposed to the older style bushings that you'd get on the custom shop. Let's have a look at the old Epi. Slightly different style truss rod cover. 3 screws, loose nut. That one there's in at a little bit of an angle for some reason. Might have been me did that actually, because I have tweaked the truss rod on this previously. Okay, let's have a look. So yeah, slightly different shape truss rod cover. It's a different style. I mean, that's you put the Allen key in that one, as opposed to the Gibson one's got a nut wrench, a wrench that they include in the guitars with Gibson. So that's a different style. I don't know what that means, but it's different. I guess the Gibson one's more expensive. Is it any better? We don't know. But it's different. So there's a difference in the truss rod style. So I guess these things add up to, money. I'd say, although the Epiphone one looks real nice and tidy, The Gibson one probably looks more robust and functional. And not that I've ever had any issues with Epiphone truss rods personally. You might have some stories you could share. Please do in the comments below. So let's have a look in this Epiphone control cavity. So there's the wiring on the Epiphone. It's got full-size CTS branded parts. Let me just have a look at that wire and see if I can, and just do a little comparison. So they're wired differently. So the Gibson has got Gibson branded pots, and they're on a metal shielded base plate, which is nice. It's very tidily wired with orange drop capacitors as claimed, and yeah, this is 50 style wiring. So it actually goes from the center lug on the tone controls to the hot lug on the volume controls. The Epiphone is wired slightly differently with the caps. The tone caps are going from what I would say is the hot lug on the tone controls to the center lug on the volume controls. I'm not 100% certain what that means off the top of my head. Anyway, the other thing, so while we've got these both like that, so what you can also see, the Epiphone has a veneer on the back to cover what is underneath, essentially. You know how many, we don't know how many pieces of wood are underneath, and it isn't going to be matched because it's a gold top anyway, so it didn't need to be. So however many pieces of wood underneath, we don't know. It's got this veneer covering it. Whereas the Gibson hasn't. It's got, let's have a look. How many pieces of wood is that? It's always quite hard to tell. They do a good job of hiding it. The maple obviously top is obviously two-piece maple cap. So I think there's a join there. I think it's just a join there. I think it's just two pieces. Really hard to tell. So that's that. Yeah. The other difference is, as we know, the neck on a Gibson is all one piece, but it's got these wings stuck on the side of the headstock there, whereas the Epiphone has got a scarf joint there, and but it also has wings stuck on the side. So that's that. And the other, I suppose the only other thing is just looking at the frets and the fretwork. There's this gold top is, has been fine. It looks nice. There's no, there's no muck or blemishes. Obviously the nut's loose, but it's not a biggie. And the Gibson, obviously, because it has the fret nibs, is hand finished, and will always have these kind of marks that you get on the edge where I think they have to file away the binding by hand, don't they? They finish them by hand, so that's kind of you'll always get this handmade kind of feel. I mean, they claim to be handmade. What they do is they file away the binding by hand. Epiphones are largely handmade as well. The bodies are all CNC'd on all of this stuff. They're not hand, carved and stuff, are they, these days? Certainly the Gibson's got hand-wired electronics. To an extent, the Epiphone has as well, but they hand-wire it beforehand and then stick it in and plug the pickups in. I think that lets the Epiphone down a little bit, but is an obvious representation of the difference in cost, where the cost savings are. So, okay, well, look, there's some interesting stuff there, I hope. I'm going to now put them all back together, and I'll have a listen and see if we can hear any difference. So both guitars restrung with Ernie Ball regular slinkies, which is a 10 gauge, in case you didn't know. So I just need to check the intonation and the action on both of them, have a quick look at the pickup heights. But before I do that, we haven't checked the pickup outputs yet. So we're plugged in, let's do that now. Okay. Set the controls to 10. Hope the battery holds up. Okay, so on the Gibson, on the bridge pickup, we've got 7.98 kilo ohms. I think that's right. And on the neck pickup, we've got 7.47. And on the Epiphone, the bridge pickup measures just over 8, and the neck 7.25. So there's a little bit more variation on the Epiphone. The neck's a little bit lower output than the bridge by comparison. Okay, so both guitars are now restrung. Oh, okay, and you'll notice that I've done the top wrap on both of these guitars, which is, you know, you feed the strings through the reverse, through that side of the tailpiece and wrap them over. And if you've not tried that, you should. It definitely gives it a slinkier feel. You know, the other thing is it decreases the break angle over the bridge. Sometimes these strings can touch the back of the bridge, causing friction and breakages, but that's not been a problem on either of these guitars. But I quite like to top wrap sometimes, because as I say, it gives it a real nice feel. You will notice a difference, so give it a try if you've never done it. Give it a try. I don't know if it makes any difference to the sound at all. Maybe we'll try that out one day and find out. But both of these guitars top wrap, so parity remains. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about feel, how these guitars feel. Do they feel different at all? So, you know, we've established they're both a nice weight. The Gibson it's got a promising unplugged sound. So slightly heavier. Slightly different sound unplugged. It almost, if anything, it sounds a little bit more, it sounds like it's got a little bit more sustain, doesn't it? I don't know about sustain. It's got a different. It's got a slightly different sound to it. Imagine that there is a difference, as we know. The Gibson's got a real lightweight tailpiece, and the Epiphone's, you know, got the kind of the heavier version, and obviously the bridges are made out of different material as well. So. That's the difference unplugged. I mean, I actually prefer the sound of the Epiphone unplugged. I'm not sure what that, if that means anything. But that sounds nice to me. That sounds real nice. that sounds a little bit tighter, and which, well, we don't know what that means, but so feel wise, so if I'd done a blind test, I might expect the Gibson to sound like that. Let's plug them in. Both sound great. They don't feel any different to me. They really don't. I'd say that you can, if you're thinking about it, you would notice that the neck on the Epiphone is a little bit more robust. It just feels a little bit more robust. Where it's just slightly, it's a different, yeah, it's kind of a fuller, it's a fuller shape. And yeah, this is, I can't remember what the measurements were, but to me, it feels a little bit shallower, this. I can't remember if that's right or not. It'd be interesting to see. This feels a little bit sticky, stickier. I don't say it's sticky, but they're both obviously glossy. This one feels a bit sticky. I had a Les Paul in gold top from 2006, which had real sticky neck problem, and I had to use wire wool to take it all off to make it, you know, smooth, and then it would gloss up and get sticky again. It took ages to actually get rid of it. I think it's quite a well-known phenomenon. Whereas this is just a poly on the Epiphone. It doesn't feel a huge amount of difference, you know. They both need playing a lot to get rid of any stickiness. So that's what they sound like. There's no doubt at all that this Les Paul Standard 2021 by Gibson is a fantastic guitar. We've sort of discussed earlier that, you know, in some ways it's a work of art, and it's probably the pinnacle of guitar ownership for many players out there. I say pinnacle. I know that the custom shop, you might think that the custom shop range is really the pinnacle, but to be honest, they're way beyond the reach of most people in affordability. And the Les Paul Standard at well over £2,000 is something that, you know, people will have to save up for and aim for quite a long time. So, you know, we're talking about normal people, not you know, wealthy people and dentists and lawyers and all that lot. They're not normal. The normal people are you lot out there that, you know, aren't able to go and buy guitars every month, and your purchase is important. Where you spend your money is important, and that's really why I wanted to make this film, because, as I've said earlier, the Epiphone that they're currently making, this Les Paul Standard, is a proper Les Paul. And the question is, why would you spend £2,200 on a Gibson when you can buy an Epiphone for £500? For many players, owning a guitar like this would signify that you'd finally arrived as a player, that you were finally good enough to justify investing in such a fine instrument. But fine instrument, I think, is a good description. I think, as we've already demonstrated, you know, this is quite a fragile guitar. The finish is very fragile, as you saw. You know, within minutes, you know, a blemish was put on by putting it on a guitar stand. And in fact, throughout this, I've obviously been using this as a kind of a rubber, kind of a yoga matting style thing, and I've been quite concerned about even putting it down in case it marks it. In fact, I think it has. So, and then there's this marking there, which is just caused by, you know, where I hold it there, and I suppose the sweat, I don't know, but it's definitely marked it, and it's not something that will just rub off. And I took these close-ups that you saw earlier, and what I didn't show you earlier was that this happened. Oops. Turning it around, I dinged it on the amp. I think I dinged it on maybe on the corner or the handle, and this happened. So it's really quite fragile. I mean, it's so soft, this finish, that you gotta be careful. You know, I know we've said before that the first ding on a guitar is great because that's it, all bets are off, it's yours, you can own it and play it. But actually, I seriously, I played this for maybe an hour. The most I ever played it was in the play out that's we're in at the moment and is coming up. Prior to that, I hadn't played it for more than an hour. So there's these marks on it already. I think that if you'd saved up for this for a long time, which a lot of people would have had to have done, and within days of ownership, you'd put these dings on it, you might be a bit pissed off. You won't obviously get that with an Epiphone because the finish is really tough, and although it will mark if you bang it, you know, it will take quite a lot more effort to actually crack through like that. And a lot of people say that that's the difference. I mean, Gibson claimed that people want this finish with all its flaws because sonically it's better, and that this poly finish that they coat the Epiphones with is somehow, you know, stops sustain or stops, you know, the resonance of the guitar. Well, you can only, you know, go by what you're hearing. And if the guitars sound so close, there must be some truth in that, but you know, it's not really tangible. So let's wrap this up. Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s is a great guitar, but it's quite fragile. So buy one. If you want a Gibson, do buy one, because it's an experience that you probably need to have. And maybe, you know, hang it on your wall, look at it a lot, because that'll give you pleasure, and play it some, you know, from time to time. And get yourself an Epiphone as well to have by your bed that you can play every day without fear of breaking it, and you can take it to gigs without too much fear of losing it. That's the smart money is on the Epiphone, or several Epiphones really, if you think about it. So there you go. That's my 2 pennyworth. Hope that's been something, I don't know, entertaining. I don't know what it is really. It's something though, isn't it? So that's good. Is it? I don't know. You tell me. Okay, so thanks again for joining us. Hope to see you next week. All right, cheers now. Bye.